Hi, I'm Lee Kelso, a host of the HealthCall Live Radio Hour. I'm glad you're here. Our digestive system is far more than a way to transfer calories from food into our bodies. The billions of bacteria, virus, and fungus that live in our intestines expose our bodies to their genes and the chemicals they produce. And this influences our brain, our immune system, the way we think, and certainly how we feel. So regular listeners have heard a lot about the microbiome, but today we're talking with a physician who really pioneered sort of the medicine of the microbiome. We're going to drill down on some specific conditions and disorders to learn how you can make your microbiome work better for you. So let's meet Dr. Raphael Kellman, board-certified internal medicine physician and founder of a thriving integrative and functional medicine center in New York, the Kellman Wellness Center. You'll find them online at kellmancenter.com. Dr. Kellman, thanks a bunch for joining.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you bet. So I want to focus today, drill down on specifically how autoimmune disorders and conditions of aging can be addressed by the microbiome. So let's start a bit with brain health. What's the connection between the microbiome and our brain?
Sure, there's a profound connection. And the numerous bacteria, trillions upon trillions of gut bacteria called the microbiome, they send signals to the brain all the time. Maintaining brain health, improving brain health, and modulating brain neurochemistry and the way neurons interconnect and interface with each other. And they do this through a number of different ways. There are different means of communication between the microbiome in the gut bacteria, and the brain, like serotonin, people are familiar with, which plays a role in mood, and dopamine also plays a role in mood and in energy and focus and concentration, motivation, and then there's many other neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, epinephrine, and these bacteria are producing some of the same neurotransmitters, communicating to the brain and influencing the way the brain is functioning. So therefore, when the microbiome is functioning in a healthy way, it's flourishing, the right type of bacteria, the right ratio of different species, it's sending healing communication to the brain. And if it's not healthy, then the brain will not function as well. It can lead to anxiety and depression and poor cognitive function, change in cognitive function, brain fog, and many other conditions. It can lead to inflammation of the brain and even autoimmune issues of the brain. So profound changes can occur in the brain, ranging from depression, anxiety, to poor cognition, declining cognition, even neurodegenerative diseases, partially or maybe sometimes mostly due to problems in the gut, in the microbiome. So whoever would have thought that problems in the brain are caused by bacteria all the way down in the gut.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, isn't it? So
Yes.
Can I prevent or slow down dementia, Alzheimer's by modifying and making my microbiome healthy?
Oh, I absolutely believe so. And I think that there's more and more literature showing that to be true, that there is an association with declining microbiome health and neurological degenerative diseases. Absolutely. So there is an association, likely a causal connection. I wouldn't say that it's the only cause, not by any means, but it certainly plays a role. I see this all the time in terms of the improvement in cognition in early Alzheimer's, early dementia, and neurodegenerative diseases as well.
So help me out with that. If I have a loved one or if I'm concerned for myself, what are the specific changes I might need to make in my diet or supplements or something else to tweak my microbiome so that it's not going to be affecting my brain in that way?
Right. Well, first of all, it could be tested to see. There's a number of different companies now that can test the microbiome. We have different companies that we work with, but it's not. Diet, of course, is critical. It's mostly plant-based, but not completely. But it mostly plant-based. But there's specific types of vegetables that are more microbiome healthy. superfoods for the microbiome. Jerusalem artichokes is one example. Leeks and asparagus and even pomegranates, by the way, and kiwi. There's a number of different foods that are specifically beneficial, but all grains and all vegetables that have fiber in particular are very, very healthy. So it's not so different than the Mediterranean diet, other than that there are more specific vegetables that can even improve the microbiome even further. Fermented foods is beneficial. Kimchi is beneficial, so fermented food. It doesn't mean that people have to eat this all the time or every day, but it should be part of our diet, just like the Mediterranean diet is a very, very healthy diet. There's a lot of crossover. And in fact, with the microbiome diet, there's good reason to believe, as the studies show, that one of the main reasons the Mediterranean diet is so beneficial and so healthy for us is that it's improving the microbiome. It's not the complete reason, but it's certainly one of the reasons. Like even olive oil, for example, has a very positive effect on the microbiome. So it's really not just what we eat, but it's also, and maybe even more so, how the food we're eating is affecting the bacteria. So the principle basically is, if we keep our microbiome healthy with the foods that we're eating, then the microbiome will keep us healthy. That is a great preventative way to keep the brain healthy, and also a means of treatment as well. Because it's not just diet, it's knowing which bacteria to use. It's not just taking a probiotic, anything that you can get in GNC, but it's really what I call targeted probiotics, to know which probiotics are best for a particular problem, which it's a very individualized approach, personalized approach, meaning what's the best bacteria, probiotics that are good for you with your type of health issue. If one has cancer, God forbid, the types of probiotics will be very different than for someone who has an autoimmune disorder. Very, very different. And in fact,
let's back up. Let's back up and just stay focused there on the whole dementia issue first, and I want to get to some of those other conditions. So a very specific probiotic for people concerned about cognitive function. Can you tell me about that?
Well, it wouldn't be a specific one, but it would certainly be a number of different ones that are most beneficial. I'll give you an example. Let's say for depression, Lactobacillus helveticus and rhamnosus particularly are beneficial for the brain for improving depression and anxiety. And there are many, many other particular probiotics that are good for brain function. But also there are specific probiotics that are good to reduce inflammation. Many times the brain could be adversely affected when there's brain inflammation, which is a very common problem, not widely known and not easily diagnosed, but it can be detected frequently through the footprints of the problems of the inflammation. And there are numerous diseases of the brain that are absolutely linked to brain inflammation. And that in turn is linked to deficiencies in the microbiome. The microbiome needs to be a flourishing ecology. When it's not, that will then at times lead to inflammation, because the microbiome is communicating all the time with the immune system, and is communicating directly to the brain with the neurotransmitters. So as I was saying, is that there are multiple languages, so to speak, that the microbiome speaks to the brain. One directly, another one via the immune system, another pathway is through the endocrine system. So there's multiple channels and pathways that are leading to a web of communication from the microbiome to the brain. It's an orchestrator of a great, great symphony.
So the stool sample analysis that I have done in the past, and that's now commercially available relatively affordably. So I get back this giant report that's filled with stuff that I don't understand. What do I need to look for? How do I know what my microbiome is doing?
Well, that's why it needs to be interpreted by someone who understands. I know, I see these reports. I can't imagine how anyone really understands them. And also, I don't think that we should follow the advice that they're giving. I think that there's some things that I've seen that make sense, but it's frequently much more complex, and we don't necessarily have to go one particular way to improve the microbiome. It's not just about using certain probiotics. It's also the right types of prebiotics that are necessary, which are nutrients that improve the terrain of the microbiome to help it flourish better. There's also postbiotics, which are compounds that bacteria produce, and like, for example, butyrate. And sometimes that's the direction you need to take, more of the postbiotics, which will in turn will also affect the body in numerous ways, the brain in numerous ways, the immune system in numerous ways, and the gut wall, and many systems in the body. So that's why I call this type of medicine microbiome medicine. It needs to be a field in itself because it's complex, it's very nuanced, it's very detailed, and just like cardiology can't be just part of internal medicine. It needs and deserves a subtitle, a category in itself. So too, the microbiome. It's not just about taking probiotics. It needs to be a field in itself, which I call microbiome medicine.
And so you mentioned there a moment ago the endocrine system. Your new book is Microbiome Thyroid, and really looking at the connection between the microbiome and your thyroid, which is, that is it is the most important gland in your body, right? It regulates temperature, regulates mood, it regulates metabolism, so many different factors. How do I is there a different approach to microbiome modification just for a thyroid disorder?
It depends on what the thyroid disorder is. I mean, frequently it's inflammatory, autoimmune, and Hashimoto's. And yes, there are specific probiotics that improve the immune system, that modulate the immune system. Absolutely. I mean, I have a list of them. We almost catalog and categorize different bacteria, and to know which ones are most anti-inflammatory and modulate the immune system. And then you need to know, well, which ones work synergistically. And then the next stage is, well, you need to know which companies may provide this type of combination. Now, frequently you can't find them, so you have to mix and match. But that would be the approach. For if the thyroid disease is due to autoimmune, Hashimoto's, will be particular types of probiotics. It's always necessary to use the right types of prebiotics, inulin, arabinogalactan, different things like XOS. There are many, many different prebiotics. Even, as I mentioned before, pomegranate seeds acts as a prebiotic as well. With many diseases, the problem is not the microbe or the infection itself, but how the body is handling it. So in the end, it's us. It's our terrain that needs to be the main focus in treatment and in healing, as opposed to the quote unquote enemy outside, which is something that we receive by tradition from our ancestors, so to speak, in medicine, that have really gotten it wrong. We came from a very materialistic, mechanistic, and militaristic approach to health. But in fact, that's not the best way to approach it. In fact, it's not a good way to approach it at all. Right. And I think that's why we are running into so many problems in healthcare today.
Yeah, see a problem, attack it with a rifle shot, and you're addressing just
right.
one little issue and not the broader scale. Well, as we wind things down here, because I'd love to spend more time with you, we're limited. Tell me about how you live. What can I learn from your lifestyle? I mean, I'm assuming that you follow your own advice, so teach me how you live and how I can be more healthy.
Well, I try. Look, this is a work in progress. It's a process. We just need to know the goals, and we need to know how do we improve our health? How do we maintain our health? What is the best pathway? And again, the principle is, if we keep our microbiome healthy if we understand what nature really needs, and we're part of nature, and what is it that um, makes nature healthier? What makes the bacteria are part of nature. They set the stage for the evolution and the development of nature. So, the microbiome doesn't need candy. It doesn't need ice cream. It doesn't need sugar. It's not saying that you should never have ice cream. I mean, there's also an enjoyment level too, but it's mostly, in my opinion, plant-based diet. Uh, I think fish is good, but it should be small fish. We have to be careful about mercury. Um, some people want to eat chicken and don't want to be vegetarian. That's okay too. I think though, meat consumption is way out of control, and that needs to be significantly reduced globally, certainly nationally. And I think we should just go back closer to nature, and that is more, in my opinion, more plant based, with perhaps a little bit of fish and chicken. People really want to eat meat. It's okay, but it should be grass fed. The animals need to be taken care of well, treated well, and they need to be fed well. These are very important principles in maintaining a healthy ecology.
Let's talk just a moment about, are there foods that you think we just ought to scratch off, never have in the cabinet, never have in the fridge, things that just are so destructive to our microbiome?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, high sugar foods, I mean, it is definitely a problem. Refined carbohydrates, excess sugar, for sure, these are problem foods. Again, that's not to say someone should never have an ice cream, but it's about understanding our goals and basic principles. Meat needs to globally and nationally significant reduction. Now, then there are personal preferences. I think more fish. I think mostly plant-based food. Organic is much better if one can. We eat too much in general. I think that we could reduce our food intake probably close to 50%, but it needs to be healthy, nutrient dense foods.
Got it. So that the advice that we've heard so many times, eat like a Mediterranean peasant, still holds, huh? That's
Well,
what you're.
yeah, I want to qualify it though, that we need to combine it with the microbiome diet, because the microbiome diet focuses more, well, in addition, on fermented foods, and foods like kimchi and fermented sauerkraut, fermented vegetables too. Many different vegetables could be fermented, and superfoods, microbiome superfoods. So, if you could find Jerusalem artichoke in the store, in a health food store, grocery store, jump to it and get it, because that is something that is very, very super friendly. Is a super friendly microbiome food. So, that's why, if in the microbiome diet and a number of the books that I wrote about the microbiome, I delineate which vegetables are most beneficial for the microbiome.
And I'll link to those books, and I'll also link to some of your other appearances elsewhere around the YouTube environment, so folks can learn more and hear more from you than we had time to include today. Love to get back with you at some point down the road and have conversation again. So I hope you'll be willing to do that. Dr. Raphael Kellman from KellmanCenter.com.
Thank you.